Raidieraksts Drošinātājs. Hello, Marina.
Hi.
You are responsible for the strategic oversight of the project Create Ukraine initiative. What should we know about this project? The most important things. Just give us an oversight.
Thank you for having me. And speaking about the program, I would like to say that Create Ukraine was created to address one of the Ukraine's biggest wartime challenges. Actually, it's about bringing talented Ukrainians back home and integrating them into public institutions, even amid a full-scale war. We were inspired by Lithuania's long-running Create Lithuanian model. In Lithuanian, they say pronounce the name of the program as Kurk Lithuania, that has been operating more than 12 years. And that has proven that mobilizing diaspora and globally trained professionals can strengthen the states and produce long-term public leaders. But the goal was not simply to bring people back, but to create a practical mechanism for transferring international experience into Ukrainian policy making. In practice, it means embedding professionals with global education and careers directly into governmental teams working on key national priorities. These priorities are from economic recovery to European integration processes. Also, there is important goal to change the perception of public service. The state should be a place where talented and ambitious professionals want to work because they can create real impact. And while we were conducting the interviews with the potential participants, all of them, their main motivation was to become real change makers, changers in policy, and to see the impact that can make for Ukraine. So the program was designed to strengthen the human capital within governmental institutions. And this is important for us because the rebuilding of Ukraine will depend not only on funding or infrastructure, but also on people who can design and implement complex reforms.
So do I understand correctly that these people who were chosen were not like an intern who is just bringing coffee to his or her boss, but making like real influence with the work they do?
Yes, all of them, they work like project managers. All of them are having their own projects with the KPIs that are aligned with the strategy of each of the ministry they work. For example, the participants from the first cohort, now we're running the second cohort, but from participants from the first cohort were working on the mineral deal between the Ukraine and the United States. 3 of the participants worked with the preparation, were responsible for organization and preparation of the Ukraine Recovery Conference in 2025 that was in Rome. So it's not just, they are not interns, they are not assistants, they are working like project managers, like really big professionals and their impact we can see even in the European news, not only in local Ukrainian media.
But when these young experts return with their Western experience, Western education, Western approaches, do they sometimes face resistance from the old-style bureaucracy in Ukraine? I wouldn't say Soviet style. That would probably be over-dramatizing this thing. But or has the war made the government more open to these radical changes? Is there a culture clash, let's say?
Actually, I think that for the last 3 years, the culture, even in the governmental institutions, has changed very much. Even if we look on our ministers and deputy ministers and our prime minister, they much more younger than the professionals that we had like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Many of them have international education. Many of them use project-oriented and approaches in their management, and they delegate when they look, started working on the principle when they see the professionals then can easily delegate to them. So this not like red culture. Its culture maybe now looks more like in business books management. Of course, these young professionals bring their experience, because many of them worked also in the European businesses, and they bring their experience from the business environment and integrate it also to the governmental institutions. Of course, it's governmental institutions, some bureaucracy should be, but to be honest, for the last 3 or 4 years, we have less of that, because we have to move fast, we have to be more agile and adaptive to all the challenges we have.
We in Latvia have gotten used to news about Ukrainians leaving Ukraine. There are more than 30,000 Ukrainians living in Latvia, for example, right now. But this is a totally different story. Ukrainians, well-educated Ukrainians with their Western experiences going back to Ukraine. What's the catch? Let's say some listeners would ask: do you offer loads of money? Do you offer high positions in power, or something else unites all those people who apply to go back to their country during the time of war, when rockets are flying over your country?
You are right. On the one hand, we have a big problem with brain drain, and especially we are very sad that many young Ukrainians and students, school children go out of the country. But at the same time, the citizens of Ukraine and actually Ukrainians were also mobilized, they come more. Many of the Ukrainians that are abroad want to come back, and they need to have these opportunities to change something, opportunities to make impact. And this program gives these young professionals this kind of opportunity to be in touch with people of high-level people who really decide on what way the government will go, the country will go, what make the strategic decisions all over the country, and this possibility to be in close touch with these people, because our young professionals work directly with the ministers and vice ministers. So they are able to be on different high-level meetings with the European leaders, with the European policymakers, and this is also very important for them to understand that they can come, have this, to be the part of this community, to be the part of this network, and to have the possibility to make this real impact.
Maybe for us to get a better understanding, maybe you can name a few initiatives or some few results that maybe we even would know, where these participants of Create Ukraine have made a great input on like actual results of Ukraine achieving something.
The participants were working on the attracting on the platform that is attracting investments in Ukraine. The participants worked on this mineral deal, as I've said previously, that was signed by the Prime Minister and the office of Donald Trump. The previous cohort and also the participants of this cohort, they will work on the Ukraine Recovery Conference this year. It will be held in Poland. Also, they work on the matching Ukrainian law system with the Ukrainian reforms with the European system for us to become as quick as possible, to prepare from the legislative part as quick as possible to become the part of the European family.
Okay. Create Ukraine, the first cohort has finished and now it has scaled up to 25 professionals working across 9 different government offices. What did the pilot phase prove that the government decided with confidence to expand this program so quickly?
We were, after the end of the program, we have the feedback of the supervisors. And we have an inquiry for them for the new people, whether the program will be extended, or what can the government do to help us to expand the program. And for us was a sign when the when the vice ministers from the other ministry contacted us and asked about the expansion of the program and being the parts of the program. Because our participants working in the Ministry of Economy, the first cohort was there, they intersected with the other ministries through their day-to-day work, and other ministries were very pleased with the level of their professionalism and wanted to engage them to work on their project. So this, for us, it was the main sign, one of the main signs, and also the feedback, of course, from the participants, because they admit that this year, because the program it's like 12 months, they said that this year was really hard for them because of the rhythm and the tempo of how everything is going quickly and changing quickly, and of lots of work and tests. But they say that the results they have, that the network they expanded, that the impact they made, that they grew like professionals, like maybe in business sphere, they could grow like for 5 years. They managed to grow here through this 1 year. Because all the challenges they had, they grew through these challenges and are happy to have that path.
Quite impressive. 80% of participants in the Lithuanian version of the program stay in the country. After the first year living under air raids and blackouts, how many of your first Ukrainian cohort have actually chosen to stay?
9 of 10, and one girl went to work for the international institution, but she has a contract for 1 year, and she's going to come back to Ukraine and stay and work for the country. They were really inspired during this 1 year experience, and they were those who saw these opportunities. And it depends actually on the personality of each participant. When they want to see that opportunities, they see them, they catch them, and they make this impact.
Right. Well, later on, I will talk to one of the people who have been one of the first to go through this Create Ukraine program, Yulia Pashka. And I just want you to just say some few things about Yulia before we talk to her. What should we know about her? And how has she proven herself in the program?
Yulia is a great professional. She is very calm. She's very strict. She is, but at the same time, she's very wise girl. Strong and wise.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much for giving us an overview of the Create Ukraine program. And let's talk to Yulia, who will tell her story, how she sees this program through her own eyes and her own experience. Thank you, Marina.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for your attention for Ukraine. Thank you.
Raidieraksts Drošinātājs. Hello, Yulia.
Hi.
Why did you return to Ukraine during the time of war when so many of your compatriots have left your country?
Well, good question. I think I decided to return. My decision to return was dictated by the fact that I never wanted to leave in the first place. So when the full-scale invasion erupted in February 2022, I was in Vilnius for my Erasmus Plus exchange, and it was one of the last days of my staying there. So I was with my suitcase prepared and packed for the travel back home. Well, unfortunately, the flight was cancelled, and it took me 3 days to get to my home in Ukraine through Poland and then customs, of course. Thinking of returning, I realized that I always come back throughout this almost the 5th year of the full-scale invasion. After working for the Canadian Parliament in 2022, I came back then doing my master's in Italy in 2023 and returning for the volunteering in Chernihiv. I came back, and eventually in 2024 for Create Ukraine.
But why? Some might ask. Why return to the country which is at war?
I sense it was the feeling of belonging, and I understood that no matter how far I go, even crossing the Atlantic Ocean, I will always belong somewhere 7,000 kilometers across that ocean. So I wanted to be with my tribe and to be with my people in the most emerging and difficult time of our life.
Back in 2023, while studying in University of Padua, you described in one of the interviews your memory of the war as a film camera with a broken lens. And you said you felt your life was scattered into tiny pieces. Now that you have lived and worked in Kiev for over a year, has being home helped to repair that lens, or is the reality of war even more complex than you imagined?
Well, upon my return to Ukraine, my close friend gave me as a gift the film camera, and I started to buy films to capture all the moments, and I don't see them broken anymore. They capture my family, my friends, those that I met in Kyiv, those who also returned, the colleagues and friends from the first cohort of Create Ukraine, my supervisors, and yeah, it is still broken for many of us, but I think time makes us accept the terms and conditions of the reality we live in, and that's how it is mitigated.
Was there a specific moment in the last year while working during the Create Ukraine program where you felt that you were no longer just observing Ukraine's future, but finally creating it?
I think that was the moment of our onboarding with the program. As being among the first, the pilot cohort, it kept me inspired from the first day, because I realized that one day after this year, I will be a mentor to those and a person you can turn to for those in the following cohorts of Create Ukraine. And that's why we are creating stability and kind of institutional continuity of the program and for those who follow us. And I kept myself on the ground with regards to expectations related to working in the public sector. But I think also the moment which kept me truly motivated was the moment I met with my supervisor and my colleagues, Yulia and Roxolana. We worked for the then Deputy Minister of Economy, Tatiana Berezhna. And she engaged us on a daily basis into her work life. We realized where we can bring the most benefit to her and to Ukraine in general. And I found myself in the EU accession, the topic that I was passionate about since I was 18.
One of your colleagues mentioned packing their whole life into 2 suitcases to return to Ukraine. What was the most important thing you brought back with you? Not a physical object maybe, but perhaps a, Western habit or Western way of thinking that you refused to give up?
I brought not only physical objects I will mention later on, but also the feeling that you need to listen to people and to their stories, and that we are in so much haste ahead of our life that we do not stop to give attention to those that are close to us, irrespective that's your dear one or a complete stranger. And actually, that's what brought me the biggest lesson on the first day of the full-scale invasion. I lived at that time in the co-living in Vilnius, and one of the employees of our co-living turned out to be Ukrainian, whose family was right in the mid of a pure hell and chaos. And she was crying, and I was trying to soothe the pain and just be with her like a fellow Ukrainian at that time. That was the moment when I realized that sometimes you just need to be there for someone. And maybe I just needed to be there for Ukraine as well. And as for the physical objects, I try to never leave photographs, because when I listened to the interviews of those people who were unfortunately internally displaced, or those who were forced to flee abroad and seek secure life, the most important things for them are not like money or some toys, physical objects in general that you can turn to when you are a mature adult, but the photographs, your childhood photographs, something that makes you keep remembering the childhood in general, the school that you attended, and that may not be longer on the surface of your native city because it was bombed and destroyed to the ground, or your friends of childhood that are now scattered all around the world, and you may no longer see them just by going out in the street and knocking on the door of their house and asking if they come out today or not to play with you. So photographs were the most important thing. And actually, when I traveled through Poland, I stayed for one day at my relative's place, and I showed a photograph of my deceased grandfather to his cousin, and she didn't see him for like 20 years, and that photograph made her really happy.
There's one interesting thing you mentioned about being there for other Ukrainians. And from my experience, I know that one of the great things of leaving your country and then coming back after a while is that you see the changes, physical and different, and otherwise see the changes more clearly than if you are staying all the time at the same place, right? That's like with your children. They grow up. Usually parents say, "Oh, where did the time went? When your friends or relatives who don't see the child so often say, "Oh, he's or she has grown up so quickly." But my question was, do you see a fundamental change in Ukrainian society when you say about being there for other Ukrainians? Or is it just my optimistic hope that there is something good that comes out of this struggle for survival?
Well, of course, we struggle, we suffer, we go through our ups and downs. But in the end, I saw so much love over the past 2 years that I'm in Ukraine now, that it makes me thinking that I will never leave this place. And also, that's the thing that drives you in the morning after the heavy missile attack, when you get to the governmental quarter and you see people working as if nothing had happened during the night. They are mowing the lawn, they are painting the roads or making all the signs look better. Then they are clearing your path on the way to the cabinet of ministers. So they are continuing to do their jobs. And that's the biggest symbol of resistance, of life prevailing over the death that you can see anywhere. And since I'm a bit of a romantic person myself, that helped me to go through lots of things alongside my friends and family being with me at the same time. I saw how Ukrainian society transformed into, this logo, leaving no one behind. In Ukraine, it means always helping a stranger, even a stranger in need, especially now seeing so many news on the European level and global level when like Ukrainian veteran travels to Italy, then there's a person involved in a fight and he immediately stops the bleeding of that person, helps them to keep their lives together. So I think there's something that each and every of us can offer to the world right now. And that can now be seen everywhere, in every field, I would say.
You returned with the goal of being part of the Create Ukraine program that proposed Ukrainians living abroad to come back to Ukraine and work at the Ministry of Economy. So being part of the government or being part of the bureaucratic apparatus that's probably in most countries. The regular people are just, when they hear about bureaucrats, they think, oh, they're just spending money and what do they do and stuff like that. So there are not great connotations always, right? What was your motivation to go and work for the Ministry of Economy through the Create Ukraine project?
Throughout the past 4.5 years, I tried myself in different environments and in different settings. I did project management with a focus on Ukraine and cultural sector in Italy. I did my internship at the Canadian Parliament. Was trying to provide weapons to Ukraine at the time in 2022. I volunteered basically rebuilding Ukrainian houses in Chernihiv region. And then I realized that I need to do more, that it's not enough. And maybe the right decision is to be in the center of the decision-making process. And that was the right choice, actually, for me.
Why?
Because straight from the beginning, since the inception of the Create Ukraine, when I joined the team of Tatiana Berezhna, I felt that I belong there and that I'm working actually in the vector that brings our country closer to security, both strategic, geopolitical security and national security as it is. On EU accession, last year, Ukraine completed the screening process, the bilateral screening process of our legislation on the alignment with EU acquis with the European Commission. We did it in 14 months, and I was a part of that portfolio, basically helping to coordinate the bilateral screening session in 5 chapters, for which my supervisor was responsible. There was also another vector that I worked on. It was the update of the labor code of Ukraine, since we suffer still from the outdated provisions of the Soviet era labor code of 1972. And it was a big pleasure to abolish the discrimination provisions related to women, to youth, to the elderly on the labor market. So I know that this code is right now under the review of Verkhovna Rada. So I'm really looking forward that they will slightly improve it if there is a way to improve it and adopt it in the due time.
What was the most Soviet part of that 50-year-old law?
Something that struck me was that women were not allowed to work during the night, to do the night shifts, and also they were not allowed to travel upon their pregnancy. Like to travel for working reasons, to be posted somewhere, to go to the work trips. So that was something that I didn't expect. And yeah, I felt happy while seeing that provisions changed.
Marina Borisenko said to me that the government culture in Ukraine is shifting to a more like a business-style government. If I ask you, who has done the job for 1 year, did you ever face a moment where, I don't know, an old school official told you that your Western ideas wouldn't work in Ukraine or in a country at war? How was your experience if we talk about some stereotypes of Ukraine and actually being at the center of decision-making, as you said?
I can relate to Marina's words about shift to the business model of the governmental relations. I think it's probably dictated by the conditions we are in, that we need to change something quickly or to come up with the idea quickly and implement it. And the business style is, I would say, famous for it. So it's not that lengthy bureaucratic machinery that takes forever to adopt a decision. It's working on a daily, on a minute basis, I would even say. What is still there as kind of a debris of the past and the remnants of the past is maybe the political culture. We're still in the position where we didn't overcome the political culture that basically is based on, if I don't do that, then maybe another person will do that, or that question does not relate to me, please ask that person. So I wouldn't say that it's about subsidiarity principle. I would say it's about not only about delegation of responsibility or the subsidiarity, but trying to get detached from some of the issues that people go to you to ask for resolution. And maybe that will change in the following years. With my experience in the government, I never encountered the problem of getting my ideas to the right person or to the right place and having them implemented. Maybe that's also thanks to the supervisor I had, as she created this really enabling environment in her team while working with different departments, directors of the departments, etc., with the reform support team of Ministry of Economy in general. And that was actually really highlighted during the Ukraine Recovery Conference in Rome last year, because all of us worked as a single body, as a single organism that did amazing stuff, I would say, because 15 billion euros for different projects, investments, human capital, EU accession, etc., local dimension, business dimension, is something that all of us tried to accomplish throughout the past year.
I just thought that maybe this is a good opportunity for me to ask you about different stereotypes of Ukrainian government and how Ukraine works at the moment. You probably have heard, while traveling abroad, some stereotypes about Ukraine, but now when you have had this experience working for the government and now you're a free bird, you're not tied to the government anymore, so you can speak freely, what would be your testament, let's say, about what people think abroad about Ukraine and what's actually happening there? Maybe you can dissolve some stereotypes.
Well, the first stereotype that comes to my mind is that we are not different from Russians and that we all speak Russian here. But if you go to the streets of Kyiv even, and it came as a surprise for me as well, people are speaking Ukrainian in general, and the shift towards Ukrainian is so enormous that actually I felt myself immediately at home, since I come from the western part of Ukraine where we predominantly speak Ukrainian from the birth. I was slightly under the stereotype, influenced by it, when I was on my road to Kyiv. But then I came here and realized that stereotypes are nothing but a foundation for basically breaking them. With your own experience, with your own example even, and especially it was felt in the government. Another thing is maybe predominant with the people on global arena in general. I would say maybe they think that your civil servants do not care about you and they are indifferent to your lives, but in our place, we understood that this war can only be told through the personal stories lens. And that's why we tried to highlight those as much as we could. also the stories of success of how people won the grants that the Ministry of Economy provided and changed their lives to the fullest. The former war veterans, the persons with disabilities, women with women grants, etc. And when you see your people succeeding through the projects that you are working on, then it's maybe the biggest accomplishment you can see, because you see the added value to what you're doing.
I understand that you were part of the many rounds of negotiations with the social partners of the government to align this code of the Ukrainian law with the EU laws. Mm-hmm. What can you say about the NGO sector at the moment in Ukraine? What are the vibes there from what you have seen?
Actually, it's the driving force of our EU accession, I would say, because if you remember the events that happened in July 2025 with the whole Nabu and Sapo case, that was such a surreal reality for me back at the time, because we were working till 6 or 7 p.m. In Cabinet of Ministers. Then we just went down the street, crossed the street, and went directly to the protests with the Люди з картонками NGO.
Okay.
And that was really surreal for us, but we knew that we are doing the right thing, because anti-corruption measures in place were the first prerequisite for us having even the visa-free regime back in 2016 to 2017.
Wow. Just for the Latvian listeners who are not, maybe don't know too much about what you were just speaking, please explain the story shortly, if you can.
Okay, so there was a draft law that was passed really quickly in the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine early in the morning on one of the July days, which basically subsided the powers of the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine and the Specialist Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office to the General Prosecutor of Ukraine, which is appointed by the President of Ukraine, which meant essentially the cut on the independence of those two bodies that were established in the early process of our EU accession back in 2016. And the having anti-corruption bodies in place for us at that time meant that we are ready to actually move in the direction of EU accession back at that time. And then the European Commission held negotiations with us, and we received certain benefits from the EU in a way of having visa-free regime for our Ukrainian citizens, having the opportunity to travel abroad 90 days without any disruptions, etc.
And so basically you, while working for the government, you finished your job at the government building, went out and participated in the protest against the government or the Rada or whatever.
We would say that it was a protest not against the bodies themselves. We understand the democratic institutions and how they are working and how important they are, and how Russians will play with that piece of news when they receive it, that we are trying to overthrow the government. But no, it wasn't a movement against the government. It was a movement against the decision that disrupted the anti-corruption bodies in the first place. And the government, the Rada, heard us, because then the decision was reversed.
And nobody threw you out of your position, right?
No, of course not. And we saw many officials during the protests keeping up with us, also the members of the parliament as well, the heads of the civil society organizations, the think tanks, bloggers, media, etc.
Now you have finished the time with the Create Ukraine program, and now you do, I understand that you are teaching EU law at the Kiev School of Economics, and you are a policy officer for Ukraine to EU. Is that right?
Yes, it's true.
What does the Ukraine to EU do? What kind of organization is that?
So Ukraine to EU is a horizontal program started by Lithuanians again a year ago. So we are having an anniversary in the coming days. And its main objective is to help Ukraine to accede to the European Union through offering various types of technical support where gaps persist. So we offer sectoral support, communications, the coordination and strategic planning of the negotiations process to the government. Our main beneficiaries basically are the Deputy Prime Minister Office for European and Euro-Atlantic integration, governmental office for coordinating European and Euro-Atlantic integration, Verkhovna Rada, line committees, line ministries.
Is it an independent body?
We are a multi-donored platform supported by European Union, Lithuania, Denmark, Sweden, Poland, Ireland.
What is the last hurdle for Ukraine to join the EU, except some governments in EU capitals? If we talk about Ukraine itself.
Well, I would say that the biggest hurdle is not only about drafting and adopting laws, but also about doing the technical part of the job by implementing them. But I see that there is a political will to implement those. And in general, the decision to welcome us at the European Union in several years will lie only on the political level, I would say.
Now you're teaching EU law at the Kiev School of Economics as well. How do you teach the rule of law to students who are currently living through the ultimate lawlessness of a foreign invasion?
It's always an issue of contrasts. So in contrast to the barbaric lawfulness of the aggressor that attacked Ukraine, we see the stable democratic institutions, the democracy in action, which works on the European Union side. We hold lots of discussions, even heated ones, on how regulated European Union is, how Ukraine needs to transform in order to join the EU, even mentally. And I see that there is a great force in the eyes of our youth and students. They are rather active, they are proactive, even they are setting up the NGOs, etc. And they even put the EU flags in the corner of their initiatives to affiliate themselves with belonging to the EU family in general, because they see Ukraine as part of the EU, European values, European culture, something that we belonged long before we started actually in the Revolution of Dignity.
What should Latvians expect when Ukraine joins the EU?
2 words: a reliable partner. I know that we are a big country in terms of geography and also in terms of population, but the biggest crisis that might have occurred with the Ukrainians transferring largely to the West happened due to Russia's full-scale invasion. More than 5 million people left the country, and they are already in the European Union. They are working different jobs, they are taking their places, and they don't pose any danger apart from contributing to the economic benefits of the EU on the whole. At the same time, we know the struggle of the Baltic countries in the liberation from the Russian occupation, of the Soviet-era occupation, let's name it as it was, and then joining the EU in 2004. And we see them as an example of what we could have been if we chose that path back then. So I would say that you may see a reliable partner which ensures stability and security in the region and offers a great deal of benefits, also social and economic, to the Union on the whole, and making all of us a proficient player on the geopolitical arena when the fight between the US and China comes in the first place now.
And lastly, from your experiences and from your perspective, why should Latvians living abroad think about maybe going home? What could that bring to their life?
Well, there is a great saying in Ukrainian, "Дома і стіни допомагають," basically being translated as, "At home, even your own walls help you." That's why you can rely on support upon coming back home, even larger than when you're somewhere abroad in a strange and unknown and maybe unsafe to you place. For me, it was the words of Simas Kudirka. I hope you know that person. He's Lithuanian. Unfortunately, he passed away 3 years ago, but he was a dissident and imprisoned in the Soviet Union, but then he fortunately escaped to the US. And then he came back home with the independence of Lithuania. He was asked why he decided to return in the first place, why he didn't stay in the US, as he was really a big fan of the US upon his coming there, and he even underpinned it in his interviews. And he replied, well, you know, it is beautiful there, but it's not for me. So maybe that can be a great motivation for the youth coming back to Latvia and to Ukraine in general. But there is another thing that I want to conclude my answer with is there was Lubomir Huzer, who was a head of the Greek Catholic Church in Ukraine one time, and he spent all of his youth abroad, fleeing from the war in Austria and then in the US. And he said that youth has to go abroad, to see it, to learn, to study, to live through several milestones, ups and downs. And then youth has to return back to implement and to pass on that experience to those who remained at home.
Well, that's exactly what you have done, Julia.
Yes.
Any ideas what you're going to do in 10 years?
There's quite a deal of dark humor here, but I hope that I'll be safe and sound with my friends and family, that Ukraine will be free in the European Union, of course, and I'll be a part of that.
Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you for the invitation.
Raidieraksts Drošinātājs.